Welcome to Traveling Adventures, your quest for love. This show is for single people and those in helpless, failing relationships. So subscribe, like, and share this video, and let us go ahead and begin, shall we? Alright, today we are off to the country down under, otherwise known as Australia. Let's go ahead and see what we have in store for, as we always begin in this show, the good men and women of Australia. Let's go ahead and dive deep for both men and women. We're going to get to them at the same time pretty much. So it doesn't matter if you're a man out there or a woman struggling to find the perfect partner. We're going to go over them equally in this show. Let's go ahead and dive in, shall we? All right, starting off with the good traits. Women of Australia, they are fiercely independent and tough. She's a force of nature who doesn't need saving, meeting life's challenges with a witty retort and unbreakable resilience. All right, so strong right off the bat. Partnering with her means gaining an ally who makes you stronger, not a dependent who makes you tired. All right, very important. Not much to say there. Strong, strength. All right, so loyal to the core. This is extremely important. Her loyalty is a scorching sun. Once you're in her circle, she will defend, support, and champion you with a ferocity that is both humbling and empowering. This is a bond forged in steel, not convenience. Well, very important for Australian women. All right, we got a great start. Now let's go ahead and switch over to Australian men. All right, so when it comes to the men, larrikin charm. He disarms you with a laugh in the face of absurdity, making life's problems feel smaller and fun inevitable. This isn't just humor, it's a survival skill that transforms mundane moments into shared adventures and hard times into bearable ones. Yeah, you got to take life's challenges as good as possible. Not everything you can laugh at or, brush off so easily, but stress kills. So this is a fantastic trait to have. And it's also a sign of strength, but also wisdom. How you handle life's challenges is extremely important because, like it or not, life will always toss you all kinds of unexpected challenges or expected challenges, depending on how you choose to live your life. All right, so next positive trait for Australian men, unshakable mateship. His loyalty isn't a promise, it's a reflex. All right, so it comes naturally, right? Similar to the Australian women. You will be looked after with a fierce, pragmatic dedication that expects nothing in return. When things go wrong, he's the one already fixing it. All right, so Mr. Fix It, right? Problem solving. That's a key in any relationship. Proving his word through action, not poetry. Right, because action will always speak louder than words. All right, so we got a brilliant start for both the women and men of Australia. Let's go ahead and move on to more positive traits, because there's so much more, isn't there? Going back to the women, unpretentious and grounded. She rejects phoniness with visceral disdain, offering a genuine down-to-earth connection where you are valued for your character, not your status. With her, you can finally relax and be your unfiltered, imperfect self. Yeah, sure. And in a way, that's being perfect, being yourself. You got to be straightforward and honest. I like that. I like that, they accept you how you are. All right, so next positive trait, confidentially casual. She carries a stunning athletic beauty without a hint of effort or arrogance, making glamour seem overrated and authenticity. The ultimate allure. Her appeal is in her easy confidence and capability, not in meticulous curation. All right, so these are really good positive traits for Australian women. All right, so sounds pretty chill. All right, let's go ahead and shift back to the Australian men. Effortlessly athletic and rugged. So it seems like athleticism is shared with both sides here. He possesses a casual physical competence, whether fixing a oot, surfing a break, or navigating the outback, that makes you feel fundamentally safe. This isn't gym vanity. All right, so it looks like they take fitness very seriously. For those of you looking for a fit Australian man or woman, it's an ingrained capability to handle the real world with his own two hands. All right, so pretty savage, pretty natural, right? Naturally strong is what I'm getting from all this so far. Bluntly authentic, you'll never waste energy decoding him. What you see is what you get. All right, I like that. A refreshing honesty that obliterates pretense and games, offering the raw, unvarnished truth as his ultimate respect. Okay. Well, it sounds pretty straightforward, right? So what you see is what you get. I like that. So we have athleticism. We got a lot of stuff here going on. So let's go ahead and finish off the good for the Australian folks. Here we go. All right. So back to the women. The great equalizer. She'll call out nonsense with a perfectly timed, hilarious jab that levels any playing field, ensuring mutual respect is non-negotiable. That is extremely important. Respect is always a two-way street. Her sharp wit keeps a relationship honest, balanced, and never boring. Well, sounds like a spontaneous partner to me, because that's what spontaneity is all about. Extremely important. Adaptable and resourceful. Whether it's a bush barbecue or a black tie event, she handles it with equal parts grace and grit, thriving on challenge and improvisation. Life with her is an endless, capable adventure. Never a scripted routine. All right, so spontaneity, but in a good way, right? So no unwelcome surprises as we typically hear from toxic relationships. Remember, this is all the good traits. So with the women covered, let's go ahead and switch back to the men for one final time for the good traits. All right, so men, Australian men. Easygoing optimism. His no worries attitude is a genuine force field against life's drama, creating a relaxed atmosphere where stress struggles to survive. Yeah, because stress is a killer. This isn't laziness. It's a powerful mindset that prioritizes enjoyment and solution over complaint and panic. Yes, the best thing to do in any chaotic situation is to remain calm. I know that sounds easier said than done, but trust me, any level of control during such situations is extremely crucial if you are to get through it and come out okay as best as possible. All right, so one more good trait from the Australian men here. The practical protector. He solves problems with a roll of duct tape. Okay, so improvising, right? And calm ingenuity, making you believe he can handle anything from a flat tire to a world crisis. His value is proven in quiet actions, not loud boasts. Building a fortress of tangible security around you. All right, so sounds like we got a protector. Quite the innovator and bodyguard here. Mr. Fix-It. And calm, cool, and relaxed during tough situations. Sounds like great traits for all the single men out there. And all the single women out there from both of these. For Australian men and women here. Let's go ahead and inevitably proceed, because it is a real world, with inevitably the bad men and women of Australia. That's right. We're going to go into the ashes and fire with this one. Let's go ahead and see just how bad are Australian men and women, because while the goal is to find, if you're interested, a good Australian man or woman, you have to know also the possibilities of them being a hybrid of the bad and the good, or just straight up everything's bad about them. So with that said, special disclaimer, as we always do on this show, the following does not apply to all men and women. So do not take any offense whatsoever from this point going forward. What is said here is strictly a warning of the possibility of encountering a bad man or woman in Australia or from Australia, whatever have you. Let's go ahead and proceed, shall we? All right, so diving straight into the bad. starting back with the women of Australia. The searingly critical shrew. Her famed bluntness can morph into relentless fault finding. All right, so Mrs. Picky here, right? Where her high standards are weaponized to critique your every move, eroding your confidence chip by chip. That doesn't sound pleasant. It's a partnership perpetually on probation, where you feel graded rather than loved. All right, so it sounds like an unhappy teacher, right? All right, next negative quality of a bad Australian woman. Competitive to the core. Her fierce independence can twist into a need to win at everything, including the relationship. That's not good. Turning shared decisions into power struggles and your successes into threats. You're not on the same team. You're in a silent, exhausting tournament for dominance. Well, that's not good, is it? You know, power struggles are mighty common in toxic relationships. It doesn't mean that they're all toxic. It just means that if there is any ounce of power struggle, it can be remedied, but it takes two to tango, right? All right, going back to, well, now we're going to start with the bad traits for an Australian man here. The perpetual adolescent. He can cling to his youth like a security blanket, prioritizing his mates and a beer over mature commitment. That's not good, not very mature. Making you feel like you're dating a backpacker with a mortgage. This is Peter Pan syndrome, served with a side of barbecued snags, leaving you to manage the adult world alone. All right, well, okay, so immaturity pretty much. All right, next bad trait for the Australian men out there. Possibility. Emotionally absent. That's never good. That's quite universal, unfortunately. He often treats deep feelings like a foreign language, retreating into jokes or silence when real vulnerability is required, starving the relationship of essential emotional oxygen. You'll navigate a landscape of stoicism where she'll be right, okay, and the anthem for unaddressed issues. Well, that's not a good attitude, is it? She'll be right. I guess they mean she'll be all right, but that's not the case. Communication is the key to any successful relationship, so being emotionally absent in that regard is not a good move. Doesn't matter which country you come from. All right, so next set of bad traits. Switching gears back to the women, the Australian women. Emotionally fortressed. That legendary toughness can build an impenetrable wall around her vulnerabilities, making true intimacy a one-way street where your feelings are laid bare and hers remain a guarded mystery. You share a home, but not a soul. Okay, that's pretty bad. That's kind of like the borderline, if not silent treatment, which is a form of abuse if you really look at it. Because silent treatment means, that you're not a good communicator and you don't have what it takes to carry on a healthy, loving relationship. It could be forgiven a few times, but if it's chronic, that's a no-go. That's not good. Now it's abusive. All right, so next bad trait of Australian women here, the contemptuous bloquette. She can adopt a performative, Matisse masculinity that harbors a deep disdain for anything traditionally feminine. That's not good. You gotta be feminine. What are you doing there? Including your emotional needs, creating a connection devoid of softness or nurture. See, that's a problem worldwide. When women stop being women and start acting like men, when men stop acting like men, it goes both ways. But when women do it, it's especially cringe. It's especially sad when they start behaving more like males instead of the woman that every man needs. We need that softness and nurturing behavior. It's what we thrive on. Men. That's what we thrive on. It's a bond of ribbing, not tenderness. Well, without tenderness, love, and tenderness, there is no relationship. Shifting back to the Australian males. Blunt to the point of brutality. His honesty can be a weaponized lack of tact. That's really bad. If you're going to say something being honest, don't blow it. Don't hurt their feelings about it. I mean, what is wrong with you? That's toxic masculinity. But the same can apply to women. There's a big difference between being rude and being honest. Being honest does not give you an excuse to be rude, okay? I don't care who's telling the story. You don't do that in a serious relationship, or to anybody, really. Unless they're being rude to you, go ahead and dish it back. But this isn't the case. We're talking relationships here. Delivering criticism under the banner of just being straight. That is a major one here. You can offer criticism, but don't get all personal and start offending the person you're critiquing. That's not criticism. That's called destructive behavior. That's not productive criticism. Understand? One's a positive mindset and full of care and consideration. The other is an absolute jerk. Somebody who's immature and incapable of having a civilized conversation about something they're trying to critique. Keep the negative emotions out of it. Say what you want to say only if the listener is prepared to hear it, because not everybody wants to hear criticism, right? Have some consideration. Have some logical consideration here, you know? And just because you might be wanted to, yeah, you can talk to me straight. You can be brutally honest. Not everybody likes that, you know? Naturally, by the way, men or women. All right, so leaving emotional collateral damage in its wake. It's truth without compassion. Exactly. Where the delivery destroys the message. Absolutely. What's the point of critiquing if you're going to hurt the other person's feelings and you don't care? Now you just done more harm than good. It's a real big problem in relationships. It shouldn't even exist. It's a lack of maturity and respect. You don't just go up to your partner, especially, and say, well, I think this and that. Whoa, buddy. Might want to slow your horses there. Your delivery says everything about you. How loving and caring you really are. You don't just blurt out things that could be taken as completely offensive. Understand? All right, so the second bad trait for Australian men here, complacent ambition. The she'll be right mantra, once again, can curdle into a passive acceptance of mediocrity. That's never good. Where comfort triumphs over growth and potential is left to rust. You may find yourself dragging a dead weight of unrealized dreams up life's hill. All right, so mediocrity is just never welcome, okay? Like, it's okay to run into a plateau in the relationship and, okay, things are pretty mediocre. Well, it's up to both of you to get out of it. But when one person's playing the mediocre game constantly, they're dragging the relationship down to the pits of fire and garbage. You know, you don't want that, okay? You guys are going to crash, and it's not going to be a good ride. Okay, so last negative characteristics of Australian women and men here. Let's start out back with the women. Restlessly dissatisfied. The no worries attitude can invert it into a passive-aggressive discontent where nothing is ever quite good enough. Well, I think we heard that before, but this is elaborating further. But the complaint is buried under a layer of sarcasm and sighs. That is extremely toxic behavior right there. When your partner no longer respects you, like they're just being so sarcastic, they talk over you constantly and they're sighing, they're rolling their eyes. That is so bad in a relationship. You're literally just destroying the attraction and the love. It's very bad. It's nasty, in fact. Very bad characteristic there. You're left trying to solve a problem she refuses to name. So that's not a team player. That's somebody with a bad attitude. You gotta fix that, okay? I mean, if you really love your partner, you gotta work through this. And if she really loves you, she can't be like this. This is not a healthy relationship. All right, so back to the women once again. The social tyrant. Her unshakable loyalty to her own friend circle is absolute, and you will be expected to assimilate fully with any critique of her mates, treated as high treason. Okay. Your social life becomes a mandated annex to her empire. Well, look, if she needs all those friends and she doesn't, once again, lacking respect for you, allowing her friends to disrespect you as well, and she doesn't even care. So lack of respect here, it seems to be the anthem with this negative traits here. These two. That's not good, okay? I mean, you know, when your partner lacks respect for you, I mean, it could be almost over. It already is over. It depends on the severity. All right, so last one for the Australian men, the sporting addict. His entire emotional universe can revolve around a ball. All right, so sports, right? a team, and a calendar of events, relegating your needs to the halftime break. Wow, that's not good. This is really classic in other countries too. They plop themselves in front of the TV and say, yeah, honey, whatever, we'll talk about it later. The sports come first, the hobbies, fixing the car, whatever it is. No, you put your partner first. It's got to be a healthy, loving relationship. Your priority is your partner, not your pastimes. There's a time for that, and your partner should respect that. But it can't be chronic to the point where your partner comes second or dead last. That's not a real relationship. That's not love. You become a spectator in your own relationship, competing for attention against a league of strangers. It could be anything: television, video games, going out with friends, girls' night out, guys' night out, it doesn't matter. No, your partner comes first. Now, there are exceptions there, if it's a toxic relationship and you need your friends and distractions, but that's not a good relationship, is it? So either way, something has to be done. It has to be fixed. You can't live like that. The reluctant adult. Basic domestic responsibility can be seen as an imposition on his freedom, creating a dynamic where you become a manager, not a partner. You'll parent a grown man who views taking out the bins as a heroic act worthy of praise. All right, that's just a lack of maturity right there. So, you got to have a responsible adult as a partner. You can't have somebody who is going to be complaining about taking the trash out, yada, yada. So, all right. So with this in store here, I didn't see anything about cheating or abuse. But, giving the cold shoulder, the silent treatment, that is a form of abuse. We did see that. And, lack of respect, that is also abusive behavior if it's really chronic and severe. I understand arguments where you disrespect each other, saying things that you shouldn't really mean in the end. You should kiss and make up. But pretty much, it sounds like if you're interested in an Australian man or woman out there, yes, sounds like they would be fun partners if everything goes good, based off of all the good things that we've seen from both men and women from Australia. So you're going to have to be the judge of that. It doesn't sound too severe based on the negative traits, but those can be very severe, actually. So it's a tough call. I would say this came out pretty average. Nothing too extreme on both sides. Not too much passion as far as the good traits, but not too much extremist behavior when the negative traits come up. So I'll leave it up to you guys if you're interested, and at least they speak English for English speakers out there. And it is pretty much across the entire world for most of us, so consider the traveling time. It's quite a big decision, but I would visit there first if you're interested. That is for you single people out there and those in failing relationships. You might be on the market again trying to find somebody special. Yeah, unfortunately, you do have to start all over for people in a failing relationship. But keep in mind, it's never too late, is it? It's all up to you. You have to be the creator of your own destiny in the future. Nobody's going to give it to you. Nobody's going to put a partner in your lap. You have to consider that. I'm sorry to say, life doesn't work that way. You either get on that plane and at least go visit another country to see if it's right for you, or you can sit there saying that all men and women are bad and pretty much be a loser forever. I don't want that for you, because that's what losers do. They complain and they don't work on solutions. We saw the good traits: problem solving, improvising. Be a problem solver, not a troublemaker. Don't make a bad situation worse. All right? That's not how happiness works. It's the complete opposite of that. So that's my final verdict for the beautiful country of Australia. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Also, be sure to sign up for your free membership on my website, listed down below. Best of luck on your quest for love, and much love, everybody.